beautiful. Each one of those 7 doctrine areas has this kind of beautiful illustration image for it. So this one is about the Creator. You see some of my notes from reading through. Hey guys, Joe here, back to the Word, and in this video, I want to do a book review of this resource right here, Creator to Crown, a Christ-Centered Catechism by Adam McClendon and Chris Hulshof, published by B&H Academic. This is one of the resources I've been most excited to come out in 2026. So it was released June 1st, 2026. I've spent some time with it and I want to review it for you guys, not using my normal book review format, but actually doing kind of a flip through video thing, giving my comments along the way. So let's go ahead and get into that review right now, and then I'll talk about my hopes for how to use this and how I hope they do more resources about it on the backside of the flip through review. So let's get into it right now. So here's this beautiful resource from B&H Academic. This amazing cover right here. I have a flip through of this resource on my YouTube channel already, so this will just be brief given my review thoughts. You want a more thorough flip through, see that. But you see here, we have, this is done by Chris Hulshof, who has his advanced degree from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary and currently teaches theology and does biblical study stuff with Liberty University. And you also see on the back, we have Adam McClendon, who got his advanced degree from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary and also does things within the church and teaches theology and biblical stuff at Liberty University as well. You see these beautiful end pages. They spared no expense. Beautiful cloth overboard, foil stamping, beautiful end sheets, 2 ribbon markers. B&H Academic did an excellent job. And then so you get into some of the endorsements. Beautiful color printing. I'm just saying they did an amazing job on this all the way through. You have there the table of contents, which I'll talk more about in a moment, but the 100 questions in this catechism cover the 7 areas, so 7 doctrinal areas, all starting with C. Then you get into a brief introduction here, which talks about the use of catechisms and how the 2 who contributed to this were introduced to catechisms. They talk about what is a catechism, which is really just a catechism is an orderly way to teach biblical truth. It takes biblical truth and puts it into a question and answer format that is easier for memorization and teaching others. So they talk about why do we need a catechism, and they appeal to Charles Spurgeon as well as Boyce for the value of catechisms among Baptists and those with Baptist theology and ecclesiology. And so they get into some points here about why that is the case. And the church today, too, can benefit from the use of catechisms. They get into their hope here on page 8 is that our catechism, for those who read and use it, will help readers understand basic Christian doctrine. And I think it's going to be used to do that in many ways, and in my life and my church especially. It is our hope that these questions and answers will enable you to articulate a correct and concise answer to basic theology questions, as well as support and answer them biblically. So they talk about why this catechism. So they talk about Keach's catechism, known as the Baptist Catechism, which they've pulled from for most of this resource, and they've been inspired by Spurgeon, Boyce, as well as John Piper right there, you can see. Then they get into, I think it's on the next page, a structure of catechisms. Yeah, that's right there. Why this catechism? They talk about the structure and how they've structured it according to the redemptive narrative approach to Scripture. So that's why they're going through those: creator, creation, crisis, covenants, Christ, church, and crowned. And then they get into how to use this catechism. So using it as individuals, some tips for doing so. They talk about using it in a school, that the context for this initial writing of the catechism was for students. And so they're hopeful that it's being used in youth ministries and student ministries and the classroom, but also beyond it. They talk about using it in the home, ways you can do that, as well as ways this can be used in the church along various types of curriculum. So then we get into the meat of this. You see here, beautiful. Each one of those 7 doctrine areas has this kind of beautiful illustration image for it. So this one is about the Creator. You see some of my notes from reading through, but beautiful formatting. You've got the question, the answer for memory and study, and then the supplemental text here to help back up that biblical truth if you want to study it out. So there's the one for creation right there, that image. Just beautiful resource right here. Flipping through, get into crisis right there. I did more of this in my flip through. I will hop ahead to a section on my flip through video, which I'll link in the video description. I mentioned this right here. I saw this a couple places. Where are the qualifications for deacons found? I saw the scripture and I thought it was a misprint. It is not. When the scripture is actually the answer, it is in black. But then when it's supplemental and supports the answer, that's when you get the gold. And so that's kind of throughout this. They did not make a mistake in the printing there. So I want to correct my previous video in saying that after spending time with this resource. So you see some of those answers are in dark right there. So anyway, here we get to Crown, the last section right there. Just amazing resource. At the very end, they talk about the acknowledgments, and then they also get into an appendix about biblical covenants. That's an important conversation for Baptists. And so they have a discussion there briefly about it, how they're treating the covenants, very a biblical stance and within the history and kind of tradition of Baptist theology and ecclesiology. There's a glossary right there. Very brief. The words that are bolded throughout the questions and answers are in the glossary, and then they have a bibliography, and then a scripture index and other index at the end. So there's my flip through review. Two things briefly. One, just a critique of this, but also my hopes for its use in the future. The only really critique I have for this resource as I was going through, and really wasn't a personal critique, but something I saw online, is that as this appeals to those with Baptist theology and ecclesiology, both declared, so Southern Baptist Convention or other type of Baptist group, or non-declared, broader evangelical, but they fall within Baptist theology and ecclesiology, this resource has left Keach's questions that deal with election or particular atonement, so Calvinistic soteriology or particular redemption, out of this resource. There's some chatter online. I saw a couple comments, an Amazon review, a few other places. People were talking about whether they liked that or didn't like that. Personally, as someone who is a particular evangelical Baptist, so just like Spurgeon, I would have liked some stuff in here about that, but I think this is taking a more broader evangelical Baptist ecclesiology stance on things, and so you can teach that if you feel convictionally about that, but they didn't bake it into this resource. They left that part of the Baptist Catechism, or Keach's Catechism, which is based on the Second London Baptist Confession, so 1689, which is particular, is Calvinistic in its soteriology. So they really kind of left that out, but that's to broader appeal to more. So I think it's going to get more broad use because of that, and I don't really hold that against them, but that might be something you want to think about and why you might drift towards a more modern version of Keach's Catechism over this. But I think these 100 questions are great and really sound biblical truth here for Baptist, capital B churches, or Baptist, lowercase b. They're not Baptist overtly, but they are in their practice of only baptizing believers by immersion and becoming church members. My hope for the future with this resource is that I'm really hopeful that this sells really well, that you will get it and use it in your personal life, in your school, in your church, in your home, and I'm really hopeful that B&H Academic will do more resources around this Christ-Centered Catechism in the future. I would love to see some type of a high school curriculum, some type of a kids curriculum, something like that, something 52 weeks, something that can be done over the course of a whole year that builds out some of this and can be taught in church, in school, and even maybe in the home. And so that's my hope for the future. But to get that rolling, this has got to sell well and people have got to use it. And so I've already made it through once, and I'm planning to go through again and again and again and use it in my own life and in my church. And with that, I highly recommend it to you guys. Pick it up wherever great books are sold. I'll put the product link in the video description below, as well as the flip through video I did previously on my channel. And so I go through every single page of this in that flip through preview, and you can see all of the different questions and things. And so you can get even a greater preview of this resource before purchasing it. You want to see more book reviews I've done on my channel. The playlist for that is in the video description below. You have another question, let me know in the comments about this resource. You have an idea for a future video on my channel, let me know as well. And if you haven't subscribed and you want more content like this from me, make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe and get more content from me in your YouTube feed and other social media accounts. Until next time, continue to read, treasure, follow the word. God bless, and I'll see you guys soon.